Roar!
Ew.
Hello and welcome to Midnight Readings. Today we'll be reading Leading Causes, written by Hasty Revision. Hope you all enjoy! If any pony had asked Twilight the answer she'd been expecting when she asked Smolder what the leading causes of death were for dragons, she wouldn't have said, eaten by predators. It was a more morbid topic than she usually liked to get into, but finally having a dragon around long enough to actually get some useful information was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. She'd waited, of course. She hadn't wanted to bombard her very first dragon student with an interrogation right off the mark. Well, truth be told, she had wanted to do exactly that. But what kind of impression would that have made? The school was, first and foremost, promoting friendship, and that mission had to take priority over everything else. Now that Smolder and Spike had become friends, she could take the time to finally get the answer she needed for years. So she'd sat Smolder down in the castle dining room with a heaping bowl of gems and a list of questions ready for answers, even if some of those answers were unsettling. Eaten? She asked, with a mixture of horror and incredulity. What kind of predators can eat a dragon? Oh, you know. Rocks, hydras, ursas, chimeras. Smolder casually ticked them off with her fingers, then shrugged. The usual. Twilight's eyes darted back and forth as she tried to process the idea of a chimera taking down a dragon. It didn't add up. By all accounts, dragons were at the top of the food chain pretty much everywhere except the depths of the ocean. Even an Ursa Major, for all its size, was at a disadvantage against their flight and fire. To say nothing of the fact that dragons weren't simply beasts. They were intelligent creatures on par with any other race intellectually, if not technologically. A chimera was an extremely dangerous threat to a pony, but a dragon? How does a chimera eat a dragon? When we're little, duh. Smolder tossed a fist-sized emerald into her mouth and chewed noisily. That pretty much goes for most of the top 5 causes of death. She swallowed and licked her scaly lips clean of glittering dust while she reached for the bowl again. Average life expectancy for a dragon is about 100. She took a big bite out of a large rounded ruby, too big to cram into her jaws whole, and still be able to talk. Give or take. But I've read that dragons can live for millennia. Ember told me that the whole reason the Dragon Lord had to step down is because if they ruled for life, they'd almost never get a new one. We once had to chase a dragon out of the mountains before he could settle down for a 100-year nap and block out the sun with his snoring. To have an average lifespan that low, your juvenile mortality rates would have to be incredibly high. Smolder shrugged. Pretty much. If you make it past your first couple of molts, you're probably going to make it long term, but most of us don't. Predators really like that molt smell. Twilight swallowed hard. The idea of being caught and eaten. To Tartarus with that, the idea of kicking out your children and letting them be caught and eaten. What kind of cultural mindset led to thinking that was okay? Trust me, you'll like that one better than the second cause of death. Twilight gave her student a disbelieving look. What could I like less than children getting eaten being your leading cause of death? She shrugged. Dragon slayers. Twilight felt her blood drain from her face. Dragon slayers. It's a distant second, but yeah, the number 2 cause of death for dragons is dragon slayers. That one is pretty much only for the young dragons too. I once saw a pack of slayers go after this kid who hadn't even molted yet. Can you believe they were dumb enough to keep chasing him right into his parents' cave? She grinned fiercely, the effect punctuated by the glints of red gem lingering on her teeth. Those harpoons just made his mom mad. Harpoons? Twilight's voice was rather weak at this point, perhaps explaining why Smolder didn't hear her distress and kept going. Number 3 is cavern collapses, number 4 is avalanches and landslides. Those can get you no matter how old, if you're not careful. A big mountain will crush just about anyone, so we're pretty picky about what caves we move into long term. Not to mention where we dig for gems. You learn where not to dig, or... She let the implication hang for dramatic effect, so she could eat a small, lumpy sapphire. A sense of claustrophobic dread crept up Twilight's spine, and helpfully lifted her eyes to the vaulted crystal ceilings. The very solid, very heavy crystal ceilings. Ceilings that Spike slept under every night. And number 5 is drowning. Cave getting flooded, or just some kind of bad luck either way. Twilight looked back down at her guest, but her eyes were looking straight through the young dragon to her mental list of large bodies of water in and around Ponyville. Streams, rivers, creeks, you name it. Spike had fallen into a cold lake once and nearly got hyperthermia. Have you ever decided to go swimming on his own? I asked Fluttershy, and she told me you guys mostly die from heart problems and old age. I don't think a dragon has ever died of old age. Twilight tried to swallow but found her throat dry as a bone. Never? Never. A full day had passed since Twilight had Smolder over for lunch for their little dragon lesson, when Smolder finally had to throw up her claws and visit friendship tutors. The latest sections in several of her courses required a lot of putting names to faces, and when it came to ponies, Smolder had about as much luck with that as Ember did. She glowered at the flashcards floating in the green aura of one of the friendship tutors, whose name she couldn't be sure of at the moment. She knew all 3 of their names, of course, but was less sure which belonged to which pony. She was pretty sure Scootaloo was the Pegasus. The other 2 could go either way. It hardly seems to matter, since they were, what, in the pony term, a package deal? Ever since the trio had started as tutors, she hadn't seen them apart for even a second. It was honestly starting to get weird. They even had the same marks, something that Sandbar had told her wasn't supposed to happen as far as he knew. The figure on the card was just about as hard to sort as the tutors. Dark, lots of grey and black, and he had a long, smoothish red-orange horn. Truth be told, it was mostly a pony head on a dark cloud of smoke. The pony of shadows? The little white unicorn lowered the card sheepishly. No, sorry. That was King Sombra. Smolder folded her arms. What is it with equestrian dark smoke monsters? First that Tantabus thing, then Sombra, then the shadow pony. The yellow earth pony scratched her head. Maybe that's just what dark magic looks like? It is called dark and all. Fighting the Tantabus was so awesome, Scootaloo said. It was all in a dream, and we could do anything. It was like being in a living Pony Power comics. Oh yeah, the Living Power Pony comic is in chapter 12, by the way, the Earth Pony added. Ain't on this test, though. This one's all about overcoming fears and stuff with friendship and harmony. The unicorn lifted a bigger sheet of paper covered in notes, and a picture of a dark unicorn wearing a red cloak, with the same head as the one in the smoke cloud. Which is why Sombra is on it. He had this creepy magic door that... Smolder jumped when the unicorn's lecture was cut off by the tutor's office door slamming open behind her. She twisted on the spot, expecting neither Yona or an overstimulated Silverstream to greet her. Instead, a small figure clumsily waddled through the door, made clumsily by the fact he was covered head to toe in safety gear. What did you tell her? Spike? The Earth Pony took a tentative step forward. That you in there? What happened? Spike took an awkward step forward that might have been menacing if he could walk properly. It looked as though he'd been cornered by a deranged sports coach and made to put on all of the gear. A bulky hoofball shoulder pads, a hockey helmet with a slot cut for his spikes, a catcher's chest protector with pillows strapped to the front of it and back, oversized leg guards, elbow pads that were probably for an ill-fitting cup buried somewhere under the insulated suit that all the other gear was strapped on top of. What did you tell her? He repeated. Smolder looked him up and down. What happened to you? Spike! Headmare Twilight rounded the doorframe, eyes lighting up as she caught the sight of her assistant. Spike, there you are! Why'd you run off like that? You didn't even grab your inner tube! A blue and pink inner tube floated into view in the grip of her magic, along with a pair of bright orange floaties. The same raspberry aura lifted Spike off the floor and swept him away down the hall. I've also got you a life jacket and some flippers. I'm also going to talk to Rainbow Dash about adding a cloud wing to the castle. It's high time I learned how to build with clouds. Nice, soft, fluffy clouds! Smolder and the tutor stayed quiet for a few moments, as Twilight's slightly unhinged voice faded away down the halls. The dragon turned to her tutors, but they looked as bewildered as she felt, except for the Earth Pony. She just sighed and lowered her head. Don't worry, girls, I've seen this before. Reckon I ought to get Applejack. Smolder raised a brow. Seen what before? Applebloom? She added it as an afterthought. In hindsight, she probably should have remembered that the weird accent meant she would be the one with the apple in her name. Applebloom started to walk to the door. Something must have got Twilight mighty overprotective. My sister got the same way once. Applebloom paused and shot Smolder a look. Spack said you told her something? Smolder shrugged. She brought me over to the castle for lunch yesterday so I could tell her about dragons. The unicorn, Sweetie Belle by process of elimination, made to follow Applebloom to the door. What'd you talk about? She wanted to know what our leading cause of death were. Sweetie tripped over her own hooves. Applebloom and Scoodly both gasped. And you told her? Ah, pony feathers, this ain't gonna go well. Sweetie, y'all better go get Rarity too. Scoots? A blur of orange and purple, Scoodly was on her scooter and had her helmet jammed on her head. I'll grab Rainbow Dash and Pinky. We're gonna need all the hooves on this one. Good call. I'll go and grab Fluttershy too. Sweetie, maybe you better get Starlight. Don't bother, a rather tired voice said from the hall. I already know. Starlight slowly plodded past. And I told Fluttershy already. Just get the others. We'll try to corner her in the teacher's lounge. Oh, and you! Starlight stuck her head around the doorframe to glare at Smolder. What did you tell her? Ooh, Smolder's in trouble! Uh-oh. Yeah, we may have a little problem. Just a little one. But that's okay. Don't worry, Smolder. I'm sure Twilight will get over it. And besides, she's forgetting. He's Spike. He's not a normal dragon. Anywho, that was... Scrolling up to the top again. Leading causes written by Hasty Revision. Hope you all enjoyed. And keep watching that moon. Bye! And a howling thank you to my Patreons.